Hey, what is going on, guys? It's DK back at you with another video here to talk about some team stacks I like for week one as well as game stacks for GPP. So, before I get into talking some players and game stacks I like for week one, real quick I want to talk about this is Wednesday night, so we got one more day until football. Really excited. We got the showdown slate with Green Bay and Chicago. I will be live streaming before that game, probably about 30 minutes or so. It's twitch.tv/DK_DFS. I'd really appreciate if you guys come up, check out the stream. I'll answer any questions you guys have. So, would really appreciate if you guys, hopped in the stream tomorrow. And yeah, let's jump into breaking down some teams as well as game stacks I like for week one. So I'm going to talk about five team stacks I like first. So I'll start with Jameis Winston. And this Tampa Bay offense has been really hyped up, in the offseason, but for good reason. Their running game is very non-existent. So it's going to be a lot of Jameis and their receivers. So Jameis, I know he's priced at 6.6K, but this game, I talked about it a good amount here. I like this game a lot as a game stack. Jameis has 6.6K again, a little pricey, but the guys that you can pair him with. Where is Tampa Bay here? Okay. So, Godwin. I think he's going to be really chalky. He's going to be the cash game option. He's the safe option for sure. Again, another guy that's winning a lot of hype in the offseason. At 6.2K, that seems a little underpriced, so I think he's going to be pretty popular. If you want a pivot off the popular Godwin, I think Mike Evans at 7.9K. I feel like a lot of people are just going to save the salary to go Godwin, but Mike Evans, I think it was kind of underowned, kind of forgotten about. 7.9K. This guy has huge upside. Again, San Francisco's defense is not good at all. So Mike Evans, Godwin, as well as OJ Howard. 5K for OJ Howard just seems too cheap. He was one of the best tight ends before he got injured in Week 11. So I think all three of those guys are definitely viable to pair with Jameis. If you're doing a game stack, you can definitely run two of them with Jameis if you wanted to. But any of those three guys, I think are definitely in play here as a game stack or as a team stack. So next we'll go to Cam Newton, another game that I've talked about a good amount here. The Rams and the Panthers. I like this as a game stack. I like stacking it for Carolina as well. So Cam Newton, 6.5K. A guy that has some rushing upside. I talk about it a lot in my videos, but I like those quarterbacks that have that rushing upside. Cam is definitely one of those. He hasn't been rushing as much as he did when he was younger, but he still has that upside. He still can get you a touchdown or two on the ground, which I do really like. This game should be a shootout. So, I think Cam, pairing him with a couple guys here for Carolina. So, we'll start with McCaffrey, even at 8.8K. I like him as a spend up. You could definitely pair him with Cam because McCaffrey's, one of their best receivers, if not their best receiver, honestly, on the team. So you could definitely pair McCaffrey with Cam. If you wanted some cheaper guys, Curtis Samuel, I've talked to him a good amount. He's going to be really popular. He's going to be chalky. I think he's safe, though, at 4.2K. A guy that is, has just looked really good in the offseason, preseason. 4.2K is just too cheap for a starting receiver in this type of game with an over-under over 50. So I think he's going to be a popular option. If you want the pivot off Curtis Samuel, DJ Moore here at 5.5K. I think he's going to go pretty low owned and kind of forgotten about. And again, I think the masses go to Curtis Samuel, but DJ Moore has just as much upside. I think he's going to come with minimal ownership. So I think he's definitely worth a look. And another cheap option here is Greg Olsen. I think he's going to kind of forgotten about. I know he's old. I know he's been injury prone, but he's a really cheap option in a high over-under game. So you can definitely pair any of those three guys, any of those four, honestly. You could pair McCaffrey with Cam too. I think that's definitely worth consideration. So we talked about Jameis, we talked about Cam. Lamar Jackson is a guy that I like for week one, but I think if I was going to play him, I'd run a naked Lamar Jackson. There's just the wide receivers is kind of up in the air. I'm going to take a wait and see approach in their wide receivers. So if I was going to run Lamar, it would be a naked Lamar for sure. I don't think I could pair him with anyone. I guess if I was going to pair him with someone, it would be Mark Andrews at 3K. But that's just if I'm making multiple GPP lineups. Next side here is Jimmy Garoppolo. So I already talked about the Tampa Bay side. I like the San Francisco side as well. The thing with San Francisco, though, is it's a little riskier on their wide receiver side. So obviously at the top, the safe option is George Kittle, 6.6K. I think he's priced right about. He's priced right, but with upside. San Francisco, they don't have a number one receiver. Their number one receiver is George Kittle. This is like their go-to guy. And Tampa Bay's offense is a defense that we picked on all the time last year. So I have no issue George Kittle, Jimmy Garoppolo. I think Gibbs really low owned. Again, I don't really think Jimmy G is going to get a lot of ownership for Week 1. So the stack of him and Kittle can definitely get you like 100 yards and 2 touchdowns for sure. So definitely think that's worth consideration. Pettis, a little riskier here, 5.4K. He's questionable. I think he's going to be good to go, though. But, yeah, I think he's, at least worth considering. Not my favorite play. Goodwin, I talked about him as a value play here at 4K in my last video. A guy that, does have that breakaway speed, so can definitely get you a long touchdown. But, again, these receivers, a little riskier. I don't feel as good about the San Francisco receivers. Definitely feel more comfortable with Kittle. And then, a cheap guy I talked about a value play in my last video as well as Matt Breida. You could even pair him with Jimmy G. I mean, Breida's a pretty solid pass catcher, and when healthy, this guy is a really, really good running back. A guy that I'm on for season long as well as DFS. I think he goes low on as well. So I think Matt Breida, you can definitely consider pairing him with Jimmy G as well. Okay. So let's move on to a guy that I think this stack I think is really low owned, and this is a riskier one for sure. Usually, if you guys have been watching my videos for a while for NBA, NFL, I usually just cross off those low over under games. I don't really target them unless there's like a really, really good value play. But this Buffalo stack is one that I'm at least, if you're making multiple lineups, I think you maybe throw it in one. So Josh Allen, again, he was one of the best quarterbacks at the back end of the season. A guy that has sneaky rushing upside as well. He had 100 yards in one game on the ground. 33, 24, 26, 41 for the last 6 games. And, again, its over-under is pretty low. It's below 40, but I think, pairing him with a couple Buffalo receivers here. Let me go to Buffalo real quick. Okay, so Buffalo, we got John Brown, we got Zay Jones, we got Cole Beasley, Frank Gore, but he's just too old and has no pass catching ability. I really don't think I could pair him there. Devin Singletary, TJ Yeldon. The backfield's kind of going to be a mess. I talked about it in my value play video, but really don't think I would go with any of those guys as like a stack. 2 guys that I talked about as well as in my value play video were Zay Jones, Cole Beasley. Zay Jones was a really solid receiver at the back end of the year as well. John Brown, he's a guy that has breakaway speed. And then they got Cole Beasley, who's going to play in the slot. Would probably be my favorite target here, Cole Beasley. 3.6K. He looked really good in the preseason. Looks like he has a pretty solid connection with Josh Allen. So, if I was going to pair one of these Buffalo guys with Josh Allen, I think it would be Cole Beasley. And I think that stack goes super low owned. But again, if you're a guy that's making multiple lineups, multiple game stacks, I think just throw the Buffalo 1 in 1. I know the game is not appealing, but I think that has some sneaky upside. Lastly, I will talk about the Arizona game stack. Again, I'm really into this Arizona offense. I'm all in. I drafted Kyler Murray and David Johnson at both my season-long leagues. So I'm really buying into this Cliff Kingsbury offense. Kyler Murray, I know, kind of unproven. He's a rookie, but I'm just trusting the system here. I'm trusting they're going to be the fastest-paced team. So I know the offensive line is not good, but I'm trusting in the process here. Kyler Murray, he's got that rushing upside. If you guys watch my videos, you know by now I really like those quarterbacks with rushing upside. And 5.6, I think he's just too cheap. And I like pairing him. Let me go to Arizona real quick. I like pairing him with a few guys here, actually. So you can 100% pair him with David Johnson, and that's something I'm considering for sure. If I'm making a GPP lineup. David Johnson, one of the best pass catching backs in the league, and he was still a pretty solid back last year and probably the worst offense in the NFL. So now he gets Cliff Kingsbury and this, they're going to be the fastest paced team in the league. Hurry up offense. This is great for David Johnson. They're not going to just run him up the middle every play. So I think you could definitely pair him with Kyler Murray for sure. But if you don't want to pair the high end running back, you got Larry Fitzgerald, you got Christian Kirk, two guys that I think actually go pretty low. And I thought Kirk was gonna be kind of popular, but it sounded like it's gonna be D.D. Westbrook. It's going to be Curtis Samuel. They're going to be the chalky, cheap receiver. So Christian Kirk at 4.7K. A guy that, again, was in a really bad offense last year, but still put up some decent numbers. Now he gets this, complete 180 turn. They're going to be, the fastest paced team in the league. So I really like that. Christian Kirk. And don't forget about Larry Fitzgerald as well. I know he's old, 36, but, this is still a guy that got targeted 9 times the last 4 games of the season. And he's going to be playing in the slot. Again, I really do like this Arizona offense, so I think this is definitely a stack that you got to consider for sure. So yeah, those are the 5, QB, wide receiver, tight end, running back stacks I do like for week 1. Now let's talk about the game stacks. So you guys can kind of guess this. The Rams, Panthers, really like this game stack. Should be a shootout. The over-under is over 50, so I already talked about McCaffrey. Gurley, not really a guy I'm on. I think he goes really low owned, so maybe worth a look. But again, it seems like they're kind of going to want to limit him. So Gurley, not really on him. Any of the 3 Rams receivers you can definitely pair with Jared Goff, Cooks, Woods, Cooper Kupp. The only issue I have with the Rams receivers is just they're so balanced. Like, it's such a balanced attack. Everyone gets their share. No one really has. I mean, there will be guys that have like a great game every once in a while, but normally it's a pretty balanced attack between those 3 and Gurley. So that's the only concern. But all 3 of these guys priced fairly in a high over-under game, have no issue there. I already talked about the Carolina guys, DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel is going to be the chalk. Greg Olsen, I talked about him as a cheap option. So yeah, this game stack is one that if you're making GPPs, you got to consider it for sure. Okay, next game stack I'll talk about. You guys can guess it. Yeah, San Francisco, Tampa Bay. So, I already talked about basically all these guys. But yeah, just 2 really bad defenses. I'll go over it one more time. 2 really bad defenses. A lot of guys in this game are cheap. Like, besides Mike Evans and even George Kittle, like any of these guys, like 6K and below, really, you can get a lot of cheap options in this game, which I do like. So, yeah, I'm not going to go, talking about all these guys again, but I do really like this game as a game stack. And finally, I think one that goes pretty low owned is going to be this Arizona and Detroit side. So I already talked about the Arizona side. Again, I really like that offense. So let's talk about the Detroit side. I think Detroit goes pretty low owned. Stafford I think is okay here. Not really high on him, but I think definitely if you're making a game stack, you can consider him. I think if I had to pick between the 2 quarterbacks, again, I would lean towards Kyler Murray. But I think Stafford is definitely in consideration as well. And you can pair him with Kenny Galladay, who, Arizona, they lost a lot of defensive backs. Their defense should not be that good this year. And again, if their offense is going to be running at one of the fastest paces in the NFL, that means Detroit's going to have to score some points as well. So Kenny Galladay, 6.3K. I think he goes pretty low owned. And this is a guy that flashed some pretty big upside last year. I think he's going to have an even better season this year. So I like Kenny Galladay a good amount here. Kerryon Johnson, another guy that I do like as well. They got Theo Riddick out of town. 5.8K. It's sounding like Kerryon's going to be the 3-down back. I know they still have C.J. Anderson. They have Ty Johnson, the rookie. But I really think Kerryon's going to get a good amount of work here. And 5.8K, I think that's just too cheap. So I think he's a solid option. Marvin Jones Jr., Amendola, those guys are okay. If I had to pick between the 2, it would be Amendola because he's cheaper, plays out of the slot. I know he's older, but I think he's a value guy you can at least consider. Finally, T.J. Hawkinson. He's the rookie out of Iowa. I don't think I can go there for week 1 just because I think the Lions are kind of ease him into it. But he's a guy that I think later on, maybe in the middle of the season to the end of the season, would be a guy that I would consider for DFS. But I'm going to take a wait-and-see approach for now for him. So, I think that's honestly about it, guys. So I talked about 5 QB, wide receiver, tight end, running back stacks that I liked. I talked about the 3 game stacks that I really like for GPPs. So I think that's about it. Again, if you have been enjoying the content so far, guys, I'd really appreciate if you would like this video and subscribe if you haven't. And like I said, I will be live streaming for the the showdown slate between Green Bay and Chicago. Twitch.tv/DK_DFS. Really appreciate you guys come check it out. And yeah, I'll be back for another video. So I already did an early week 1 breakdown of the main slate. I'm gonna have a video up probably Thursday or Friday of breaking down that again, going more in depth. So look out for that in my channel. So yeah, I will see you guys then.